Hi everyone, I'm Jake Brereton and I'm the host of today's webinar. I've been on the Jira team for over 5 years and currently have the privilege of leading the Jira software product marketing team. Today I could not be more excited to share with you the most significant update we've ever made to Jira Software Cloud. I'm also thrilled to introduce Jason Wong, a principal product manager on Jira Software. Jason has been a PM on the Jira team for over 4 years and has played a key role in bringing this latest iteration of the product to life. Okay, now a bit of housekeeping before we get going. If you're watching this webinar live, please feel free to ask questions in your webinar console throughout the presentation. No matter which region of the world you're in, we have Atlassians responding to questions as they come in. Additionally, Jason and I will be hosting a live Q&A at the end of the webinar, and we'll be happy to field any additional questions then. Here's today's agenda. We'll begin with a brief look into some of the fundamental shifts that we've made to our flagship product, shifts that have paved the way for the next generation of Jira software. Next, we'll cover some of the key market trends that have informed our product roadmap over the past year. And then, we'll get right into the meat of it. We know you're here today to see a full demo of the new product, and we want to spend the majority of our time together sharing the entirely reimagined Jira software experience with you. Finally, we'll wrap up with a short conclusion, and then move right into a live Q&A. Before we get into the new product demo, I think it's really important that we spend a few minutes covering some of the really exciting foundational changes we've made under the hood of our flagship cloud offering. Without these changes, what we'd be demoing for you today would not have been possible. The next generation experience in Jira software is far more than a redesigned UI and the addition of some new features. Instead, it's a paradigm shift in how we've chosen to build, run, and deliver the #1 software development tool for Agile teams. As many of you know, Jira began as a behind-the-firewall product, in a world where self-hosted software was the industry standard. Since then, cloud technology has taken the world by storm, and it's rapidly becoming the standard for how teams build, run, and deliver products and services. Today, Jira Software is pleased to meet customers wherever they are in their adoption of cloud. And for many years, we've offered both self-hosted and cloud versions of the product. We will continue to do so. But for us, simply supporting both deployment options isn't the goal. Regardless of how you choose to run Jira at your organization, we want the product to be best of breed. And we've gone through great lengths to ensure our new version of Jira Software Cloud is exactly that. Believe it or not, for almost a decade, Atlassian managed both Jira Software Cloud and Server from a single code base. However, as time went by, it became harder and harder to build the cloud version of Jira that our users were demanding at the speed and quality we needed to from a single code base. Having one code base was forcing us to make unfair trade-offs for users of both deployment options, and we knew there had to be a better way. So in 2016, we made the hard decision to do the right thing for all Jira users, and we forked the Jira codebase. So the product we're going to be demoing for you in this webinar is far more than a reimagined look and feel. The Jira software we're going to be showing you today has been re-engineered and re-architected from top to bottom for the world of modern software development, the world that so many of you and your teams are living and working in today. Now, if you've been a Jira Software Cloud user over the past few years, you might have noticed a slight decrease in the release cadence of new features and functionality. And the why is simple. As I mentioned just a moment ago, over the past few years, the majority of our engineering team has been heads down rebuilding key foundational components of the product. But ultimately, we made the decision to slow down in the short term so we could accelerate delivery of new features and functionality faster in the long term. Rebuilding Jira Software as a modern cloud product was an enormous investment that has enabled us to lay the foundation for more rapid innovation in the years ahead. This means we not only have a lot to show you today, but also that you can expect new features and functionality in Jira Software Cloud at a faster and more frequent cadence moving forward. I'd also like to call out that while this update is one of the most significant improvements Atlassian has ever made to any product, it's an update that's been delivered piece by piece over the past year. The Jira team has been building, testing, measuring, and releasing new parts of our cloud offering iteratively for many, many months now. And in great part, this was because our next generation Jira software didn't depend on every team shipping something at once, but instead on every team shipping each time they had value ready to put in front of users. 500 million feature flag events later, we're incredibly proud of the new Jira software experience before you today. Now, for anyone listening to this webinar who's ready to jump in and begin playing with the next generation experience right now, we'd encourage you to start your very own next-gen project at any time. Everything we're covering in this webinar is available now. Simply create a new project in the same way you always have, and then select Next-Gen when prompted to do so. We'd also love for you to visit the Next-Gen space on the Atlassian community. Whether you have a question, a concern, or you just want to learn more about the Next-Gen experience, our community is the perfect place. Jira PMs also frequently visit the community to answer questions and share updates on beta programs, new features, product roadmaps, and much more. To check it out, visit atlassian.com/getnextgen. And while you're spinning up your own next-gen project, I want to discuss some of the key trends that help shape this next generation of Jira software. An experience that is all about keeping software development teams ahead of the curve and moving one step faster than the market. And when I talk about trends, both market trends and trends across our user base, it's worth noting the volume and scale of these trends. Our perspective and roadmap were ultimately shaped from feedback that came in from millions of users, as well as the enormous cloud software development community at large. In the build-up to our next-gen project experience, the Jira team conducted more than 500 customer interviews, synthesized over 1 million NPS responses, and analyzed over 500 million feature flag events. And so the way we've organized today's product demo is by major trend. The major trends we've been following in the larger software development market, as well as the major trends we're hearing from the hundreds of thousands of software development teams that use Jira software each and every day. We'll be coming back to these trends frequently throughout the presentation. The first key trend we're going to cover is the evolution of Agile. Today, Agile software development remains the preferred methodology for planning, tracking, and releasing software. There are more teams practicing Agile today than ever before. But over the years, in the rapidly evolving world of software development tools and practices, Agile has itself continued to shift and evolve. And being the #1 software development tool for Agile teams, so too has our next generation of Jira software. For anyone unfamiliar, Jira actually began right around the same time as the Agile movement, in 2002. In many ways, the two have grown together over the past 18 years. But the software development industry and the entire industry landscape are vastly different today than they were in the early 2000s. Based on the trends we're hearing from Agile teams throughout the industry, as well as our own research into the future of software development practices, the largest commonality we're seeing is a move beyond strict implementations of traditional Agile methodologies, like Scrum and Kanban. Strict implementations that many teams refer to as, quote, Agile with a capital A. Now, this is one example of many. The frustrations with Agile with a capital A stem from the fact that teams who are working within a strict Scrum or Kanban process feel they don't have the necessary flexibility to test and iterate and truly find a way of working that they love. The faster tools and technologies in the market are changing, the faster teams everywhere are trying to stay ahead of the curve. And to do that, teams are telling us they need more flexibility in their Agile process. And this trend isn't just something we've seen among our own user base, but throughout the industry at large. In 2016, we kicked off a public Retro on Agile, where we took a retro board to industry events all around the world and collected feedback from software teams on their process. At events, our Retro on Agile seemed to really hit a nerve, and everywhere we went, engagement was through the roof. So then we decided to take the Retro global on social channels, and we had over 3,000 people engage us and tell us what they liked and didn't like about their current Agile practice. And no matter where the feedback came from, the sentiment was almost always the same. Teams were telling us that they felt okay about their Agile practice, but didn't feel like they were really humming. And when you dug into this feedback, it was almost always around too much rigidity and structure. Teams told us over and over again that they adopted Agile because it promised more agility, but in practice, they didn't feel like they'd really been able to achieve that. And a big part of this perceived rigidity was the team feeling like they were often locked into a Scrum or Kanban template, and thus those practices. Once the team lead or business had defined a process, it was very difficult for the team to ever experiment outside of that single style of work, much less to experiment quickly. Things were changing in real time, and the teams didn't feel empowered to respond to that change fast enough. In short, teams felt trapped, like they didn't have the true agility they were after. And so we've been working to tackle this problem head on in the next generation of Jira software. And I'm excited to turn it over to Jason to show you exactly how we've done that. Jason, over to you.
Thanks, Jake. So now that we've given you some background on the evolution of Agile and the changes impacting software development teams around the world, I'd like to walk you through how we've addressed these in the product. Jake mentioned that while the principles of Agile are still loved by many teams that use Jira, it's the implementation of strict Agile frameworks that's been letting them down. Throughout the development of the new Jira, we've had the privilege to meet and learn from many amazing teams. And while it's true that popular Agile frameworks like Scrum or Kanban are a great starting point, what we've learned from successful teams is that they are continuously adapting the frameworks to what works best for their situation. Every team works differently, and so with this refresh in Jira software, we're optimizing for empowerment, the ability to easily adapt to your way of working, but without the complexity you may have experienced in the past with Jira. What was this complexity in Jira that you may have experienced in the past or heard of? Again, looking at successful implementations of Jira, it's clear that many have benefited from having an experienced Jira administrator to wrangle Jira on their behalf and get it to do what they wanted it to do. And what we've learned from administrators and teams is that this doesn't scale. Teams told us that being dependent on an administrator to adjust their workflow slows down their ability to continuously adjust Jira to reflect and support their optimal way of working. Also, teams in smaller organizations most likely don't have the luxury of an administrator. Their wish is for empowerment, to make changes directly and as often as they like. Administrators told us that they lose a lot of time focusing on smaller administrative tasks, rather than some of the more impactful organizational effectiveness work that they need to be doing. They'd like to be able to delegate these small administrative tasks to teams, yet still feel comfortable that there are controls in place. To understand how we've done this, I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into the differences in how configuration works between classic and next-gen projects. Administration in Jira's classic projects has largely been built using what we call configuration schemes. Schemes that define issue types, fields, workflows, permissions, notifications. Schemes have a structure that leans towards centralized administration because they are often shared across projects. This may not seem the case when there are just a few projects or a handful of users, but as the number of projects grows, visibility of what is shared becomes harder to comprehend. Giving everyone administrator access didn't scale because making changes for a particular project was very likely to unintentionally change settings in another due to the sharing of configuration schemes. This scheme-based configuration architecture in classic Jira projects is why project configuration tended to be in the control of a handful of Jira administrators, who are quite likely to sit outside of teams. Now we've answered to the call of simplifying project configuration and bringing back balance to teams who want more autonomy with the exciting launch of next-gen projects in Jira Software Cloud. The mission for next-gen projects is to be simple, yet powerful, enabling teams to effortlessly customize their own Jira projects to truly match their own style of working. It's designed to be super intuitive for anyone in the team to set up and configure. In order to reduce complexity, we've taken a radically bold move away from centralized schemes in classic projects. As configuration in next-gen projects are independent, there is no risk that changes to project settings will impact any other. And this means that teams can confidently make changes to their next-gen project as many times as they like. It's a lot safer to go in and work independently, and so we've introduced the ability for anyone to be able to create and administrate their own next-gen project. So teams can make changes directly and quickly, empowering them to find their best way of working. Now, I do want to take a moment to talk about the future direction of next-gen projects. While we've started building next-gen projects to be completely independent, we're not saying that there will never be a need for standardization. In fact, there is indeed a balance to be had between control and autonomy. For organizations that require standardization across projects, our long-term vision is to build templating capabilities into next-gen projects so that there is a far simpler way to create and share configuration across teams. We believe that by having the best of both worlds, independent and templated next-gen projects, your organization will have a better way to find the right balance between team autonomy and control. Templating in next-gen will come further down as we progressively add more capabilities, so stay tuned for updates on this front. In order to make it so that anyone can create and customize a project, we needed to deeply simplify configuration and make it substantially more accessible to both new and experienced Jira users. Let's take a look. Let's get started by creating a new next-gen project. On your list of projects, click on the Create Project button on the top right, and then select Try a Next-Gen Project. Go ahead and give your project a name. Next, you'll see we've made it really easy to set access defaults. You can set it so it's open, which means anyone with access to the instance can create and edit issues. You can set it limited, so that anyone with access to the instance can view and comment on issues, but only people added to the project can create and edit them. Or you can take it private, where only people added to the project can create and edit issues, but the issues in the project won't appear in search results. If you want to change these later, you can always do so in project settings. The first thing I want to do is set up the columns on the board that represents the key steps in my team's workflow. We've made it really easy to inline edit the column names. I'll also easily just add them in. The next thing I want to do is add team members. You can do this really easily by clicking on the Add People button at the top of the board. Let's add Jake. Now you also see that we've made it really easy to set the role for each of the team members so that we can give them the right level of permissions. I'm going to create Jake as an administrator. He and I have been working together for many years, and I trust he'll do the right thing with the team's project settings. Often, unique types of work need to be tracked differently, so I'm going to show you how to create a custom issue type. Just go to Project Settings and click on Issue Types. You'll see we've got a few out of the box: Epic, Story, and if you click on Add Issue Type, there are also a couple of templates there for Bug and Task. I'm going to show you how to create a custom issue type. So let's go down to the bottom there where it says Create Issue Type. Give it a name. I'm going to create a custom issue type for Analytics. You can also change the icon, make it a bit more distinctive, so when you're looking at it from, say, a board, it's a lot easier to see. And there you go. In next to no time, we've created a custom issue type. Now, it's also very common for different types of work represented by the issue type to need specific information. For instance, with this Analytics issue type, we're going to need a way to enter in the relevant event names. So over on the right-hand side, you'll see a palette of custom fields. It's super easy to add a custom field. Just simply drag a tile over and place it in the order you want and give it a name. You can see how incredibly simple and powerful issue configuration can be performed in these next-gen projects using this new interface. Let's get out of here, back to the project, and get some issues on the board. Creating an issue can be done directly inline on the board. It's now super intuitive and fast. You can even cut and paste a list from a document or spreadsheet, and we'll offer to create them all for you in bulk. I've also made it really simple for you to connect to your repository. Simply go over to the left-hand sidebar, click on Add Item, and then click on a repository. Cut and paste in your repository link, and if you use Bitbucket or GitHub, we'll automatically start taking you through the authentication process to get the integrations running. Now, the integration here with your repository will give greater visibility into where things are at in the development process, which leads to greater coordination and efficiency. So there you have it, a really easy way to get started. Anyone can create a project, easily set up the columns on the board to represent the key steps in your workflow, invite team members, customize issue types, get issues on the board, and connect in your repository. We're now ready to start building software. In addition to making it easy to get started, we've put a lot of effort into making the day-to-day usage of Jira easier, optimizing to make frequent actions seamless. We've made it a whole lot easier for you to get to the views you want with fewer clicks. You'll notice a number of filters at the top of the board. that enables you to filter by people, epics, or labels. Now these ship right out of the box, automatically updating based on the information contained within the cards on your board. You also don't need to configure anything, no JQL, to get the majority of views you need. You can expect to see us adding more filtering options to this area and also ways to get more specific or custom views. The next thing I want to show you is the ability to group work by swim lanes. The grouping is shown as rows on the board. Swim lane views are now really easy to get to. You can pivot to them directly on the board. They're not hidden in any setting pages. You can group work by assignee to see who's working on which issues and the progress, or by epic to show the breakdown of tasks. And if you need to raise awareness about an issue, for example, if it's been blocked, or if you just want to call attention to something, you can easily flag it by clicking on the action menu on the top right of the card, and then clicking on flag. You'll see that it adds a flag next to the status and turns the card red to call attention to it. Next, I want to show you about how you can edit multiple issues. Simply select the issues, holding down Command and click, and then go to the top right of the card, again, to access the menu, any one of the cards. In this case, I've selected 3 cards, and I want to go ahead and update them with a label. And there you have it, a quick, nice way to update labels across multiple cards. Now, when collaborating as a team, it can be important to remind ourselves to not take on too much at any one time. Some say it's better to do a few things well than none of all the things. For that, easily add column limits to highlight and remind the team when they may be taking on too much work. Let me show you how to do this. Go to the top of a column and click on the top right column menu, where you'll see the option to set column limit. Let's set it to 5. And as you can see, as soon as we do this, it turns the column yellow as there are 7 items in here, more than the 5 items we set as our limit. The other thing I want to show you is when you add images to your issues, you'll see how you get a preview on the cards. The visual differentiation makes it easier to read the board at a glance. With the new boards, we've made it so that you can experiment with new work styles to your heart's content. I want to show you how we're leaning into this by giving you the ability to power features on and off for your team, creating your own flavor of Agile. A really exciting part of NextGen projects is how it has been designed to grow with your team. You can pick and mix from the feature set as and when needs evolve. I'll demonstrate by talking through an example of where a team may start simple, but over time step into more advanced capabilities. Now here on this board, we have a really basic setup, a bunch of customized columns and cards on a board. Some may view this as a lightweight Kanban style of workflow. As time passes, many things could happen. The team may find that it's getting harder to manage a growing list of issues that are cramming up on the left-hand column of the board. Or they may be struggling to complete work because they are not sufficiently breaking things down into shippable increments. So when running into these headwinds, the team may reach for the backlog feature. Let's see how to turn that on. First, go to Project Settings, and then select Features. You'll see how easy it is to turn on that backlog feature. Let's go back to the project to see what's changed. First, you'll see an offer to conveniently move the first column of issues over to the backlog. So let's go ahead and do that. Once that is done, you'll see all the issues in the backlog. The thinner cards in the backlog give teams more screen space to prioritize by dragging and dropping issues up and down the list. A lot of teams like to use this view when planning, encouraging discussion to break down work together as a team, and it's a great way to build and manage a backlog. Now, after a while, the team may find that they want more stability for feature development, or maybe they want more predictability to be able to manage customer or stakeholder expectations. And so they may decide to try out the essentials of the Scrum framework. Again, let's go into Project Settings and click on Features. And let's enable sprints and estimation. If we go back to the backlog, you'll see that it now has sprint capabilities enabled. Simply move the cards into the sprint that your team agrees to take on and hit the sprint button to get going. Now, when we talk about the added flexibility NextGen projects provide, it's about how it is easy to make the changes as and when a team needs. For example, if a team needs to pivot to another piece of work better suited to continuous flow or the flexibility to reprioritize any time, they can easily switch back to a Kanban style of work by simply going back project settings, features, and toggling off sprints. There are other features that can also be easily enabled or disabled, such as roadmaps and reports, and more capabilities we'll be building in the future. The beauty of the next-gen projects is the ability to toggle things on and off, mix and match features and configuration to evolve towards your optimal workflow, or simply better respond to change. Significantly, with next-gen projects, there are no rigid templates that you might have encountered with classic projects. With classic project templates, you were not able to say enable or disable sprints, and so you needed to make a decision up front about whether you wanted to run Scrum or Kanban. Things are different with next-gen projects. As I demonstrated earlier, it is now so easy to change your board columns, your issue and field configurations. And now with this new features page and settings, there's a newfound sense of freedom and ease of use to adapt your next-gen Jira project to your own flavor of Agile. Remember, next-gen project settings don't impact any other projects. You can achieve any combination of configurations with next-gen projects regardless of which template you started on. Now, for those of you looking to add more structure or guardrails to your workflows, we have a brand new way to do this by setting up some rules. Adding rules can increase your team's agility, helping to reduce the potential for error and rework. Rules can also automate out some of the manual overhead involved in completing small tasks. Let me show you how to add a rule. Firstly, navigate to the menu at the top right of your board and select Manage Rules. We're going to add a rule that assigns someone to an issue when issues are moving to do, and that someone's going to be Jake. Let's see the rule in action. If I now move an issue into the to-do column, it will automatically assign the issue to Jake. Jake wants issues assigned to him when they hit the team's to-do column so that he can be sure to have conversations with the team on the tasks before they pick up the work. He's a true believer in individuals and interactions over processes and tools. In the future, you can expect to see many more rules added to Jira Software, so stay tuned for some exciting updates here. So, in our response to the evolution of Agile, we've addressed teams' needs for more agility and less structure by empowering teams to find their best way of working, with significant improvements in ease of configuration and newfound flexibility. Now, before walking through more of the product updates in Jira, I'm going to hand back to Jake, who's going to talk about another trend that has had a big impact on our product.
Thanks, Jason. Now, another one of the key trends that's informed our approach to the next-gen Jira experience is the ever-increasing complexity of modern software development. One of Jira's greatest strengths is that it's always been the place where teams are able to capture all relevant context about any project or item of work. But in this latest update, we're taking the concept of the single source of truth to the next level. It's vital that Jira not only serves as every software team's central nervous system today, but moreover, that it's set up to do so just as meaningfully over the next decade. And as the trends, tools, and technologies across the software development landscape continue to evolve faster and faster, we've built this next generation of Jira software to ensure every software team is set up for continued success. In the world of modern software development, it's no secret that most teams aren't working in the walled gardens that were so prevalent in the early 2000s. Research indicates that today's software teams are far more likely to use a wide variety of different tools, and moreover, that these tools vary greatly from team to team. And when you couple that trend with other recent shifts in the industry, such as code moving from monolith to microservices and software teams being more distributed than ever before, it's no surprise that it's getting harder and harder for teams to stay up to date on vital things, like how a project is tracking and what the current status of work is. And nowhere is this trend more clear than in the results of our modern software development survey, where over 500 engineering teams reported using over 3 tools to get the status of a project they're working on. And 20% of respondents reported needing 5. 5 tools, all to figure out how a particular project is tracking. In the next generation of Jira, we set out to solve this problem. For software teams to truly be firing on all cylinders, there needs to be one place where all these different systems and technologies converge. One place where work can start, end, and be kept up to date every step in between, regardless of what tools or technologies the team wants to adopt. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Jason, and he'll talk about how we've solved this problem in our reimagined Jira software.
Thanks, Jake. One of the toughest parts of ensuring everyone is on the same page regarding the latest status of a project is having an up-to-date roadmap. We've heard time and again from customers that they can spend hours per week updating their roadmap in spreadsheets or slide decks, only to have those artifacts fall out of date shortly after they're published. Well, the pain of manually updating your roadmap based on what's changed in Jira is something we're working to solve for you. That's why we're super excited to introduce roadmaps in Jira. We've put roadmaps right in nextgen projects to bring them closer to what's actually happening in Jira. Not only does this help to ensure your plan is more realistic, but it also makes it really easy for anyone in your team to find, contribute, and understand how work fits into the bigger picture. Perhaps best of all, this new feature is designed to be lightweight and simple, so it's easy to use. Let's take a look. Easily type out your epics. This can be done inline on the roadmap. To break work down, simply click on the Add Child Issues button at the top of the Epic Details panel on the right. This opens up the Child Issues section of the Epic where you can select the issue type and type out what needs to be done. If you go to the due date on the field and update it, you'll notice that the bar corresponding on your roadmap will also be updated to reflect that date. Alternatively, you can start on the visual roadmap using drag and drop to change the endpoints, and the fields will then be automatically updated to reflect the change. It's also super easy to take your roadmap and share it with anyone in your org. Just go to the top right, click on Share to copy the link. We hope you're as excited about roadmaps as we are. We think they're going to be really helpful for improving the way teams build and communicate plans and progress in Jira. Give them a try and let us know what you think. Next, let's take a look at the new Jira issue. The new Jira issue is designed and built to better deal with the increasing information overload we experience due to the speed and frequency at which teams are shipping software updates and the collaboration challenges across team members and specialized tools. For many years, the Jira issues look something like this. It has been super configurable, allowing it to display all the things you need. However, as we've anticipated connecting more and more data from multiple tools via integrations to help get work done, things can get overwhelming. And so there's a need for a better way to organize what otherwise has become a lot of information on a page, some of it fragmented. And so in order to achieve a better user experience with more signal and less noise, we've applied some good design principles, re-architecting the page to better organize information into logical and consistent areas. This is so that you can better read the information, get context, and take action. The job of a Jira issue is to track work from the moment it starts until it ends, the full cycle. However, in practice, we recognize that a lot of the work teams are doing happens outside of Jira. For example, developers spend most of their time in a source control tool, or designers perhaps in design or prototyping tools. We know that keeping things up to date and accurate in Jira adds unwanted overhead, requiring people to go back and forth between Jira and their tools. This is where integrations play a huge part in the new Jira. With integrations, team members can stay focused on their work in the tools they use every day, and instead rely on integrations to push updates back to Jira for them. Everybody wins. Jira is kept up to date, and team members are able to focus on their work with fewer distractions. Here are some of the newest cloud-first integrations that we've launched. Our aim is to connect to the relevant tools your team uses so that your team doesn't have to deal with scattered information, workflows, and data that might be out of date. Through integrations, you'll be able to better track your work across the different phases of a project, from the moment you start brainstorming to when you start coding, collaborating with your teammates, and getting a working product into your customers' hands. Let's take a look at a couple of these cloud-first integrations that we're excited about. To start with, how many of you integrate your Jira software projects with your source code tools? When you connect, you get this, the development panel on the issues. On nextgen projects, you'll see the information appear in the dev status icons on the bottom left of the cards. For example, this card is showing that a branch has been created, and this one is showing that a pull request has been declined. This can be a huge help for team leads or anyone who is looking for more context about dev status at a glance, as it shows up quite easily which cards are not in the right position on the board. This is a huge help for developers, as they are able to keep Jira updated without leaving their source code tool. They can do this by simply mentioning the Jira issue key in their commit messages. This saves valuable time, and they love the way it reduces context switching. Not only is this a popular concept, we've seen productivity gains with more issues and releases delivered by teams who use this integration with their source code management tool. And we believe so much in the benefits that this depth of visibility provides, we've even taken out a patent on this feature. This integration story has now been expanded with public APIs. That means we now support more tools than ever before. Last year, we supported only Bitbucket and GitHub. We now support AWS Code Commit, Microsoft TFS, and GitLab, thanks to Marketplace app Big Brass Band. But getting issues to done on the board or code merged to master isn't the end of the story. There's a whole bunch of important work that goes into actually getting your software out to customers. Many Agile teams consider working software to be their best measure of progress, and so there's a great deal of interest in being able to get visibility into the journey a particular issue takes, all the way to the moment a software update lands in the hands of customers. Do you find yourself asking the team, hey, when's it going out? Or when did it go out? And finding that it's hard to get a quick answer? We're very excited to be stepping up Jira's tracking capabilities to enable you to know when something goes live by integrating with a couple of key tools. We're excited to share we're integrating with Bitbucket pipelines and have plans to follow up with integrations with other popular CI/CD tools. This integration allows you to see whether a particular issue's code has been deployed to certain environments, providing visibility for team members to know where it is in the deployment pipeline. Deployment information shows up on the new releases panel of the Jira issue. You'll see a summary of which environments the issue has been deployed to, and if you click in, you'll get a quick and accurate view of where the issue is along the build and deployment pipeline, so you can identify if there are any problems. It's also really easy to use this integration. Just like when developers are in their source code tool, all your team needs to do is add the issue key to commit messages, and the information will automatically flow through from your CI/CD tool into Jira. We're also proud to share that Jira Software is the first tool of its kind to integrate with feature flagging services. We've recently launched integrations with feature flag services LaunchDarkly, Rollout.io, and Optimizely. For those who aren't familiar with feature flags are a modern software development technique that lets teams turn new code on and off and roll out new features to a subset of customers with the flip of a switch. Feature flags give you the ability to roll out features partially for testing and also reduce rollout risk, as you can decide to increase or decrease feature availability at any time with the flip of a switch. Again, in the new releases panel, you'll be able to see any feature flags that have been attached to the specific issue. The status of the flag will then be automatically updated from the feature flagging tool, indicating whether the feature is on or off and to what percentage of customers the flag has been rolled out. Another integration we're really excited about is our new Slack integration. We recognize collaboration happens in multiple tools, and no matter where you're getting work done, you want to have the right context to keep work moving forward. Let's take a look at how the integration helps with this. If I'm having a conversation with my teammate and we need to know the latest status of a specific issue, I can easily pull that from Jira by simply mentioning the issue key in Slack. As in this example, the issue title and key fields are brought into the conversation in Slack in context. This means you don't have to go out to Jira and risk breaking the flow of conversation. Also, if the conversation in Slack becomes relevant to how someone might work on the issue, it's also really easy to add the discussion in Slack to the relevant Jira issue. In this example, we'll add the comment here to the relevant Jira ticket. Let's go over to Jira to have a look. Hover over to the Slack integration, and as you can see, the comments made in Slack are now pushed over to become part of the Jira issue. Again, this reduces context switching between the tools and promotes information flow so that people are working with the latest and most accurate information so that they can do a better job. Looking ahead, you'll see us working with many third-party apps and the Atlassian ecosystem. We're building the infrastructure for deeper integrations that exchanges the necessary data to enable Jira to be aware of the status of work in other tools. What we're aiming to achieve is that harmony of Jira providing real-time and accurate status tracking while enabling team members to focus on their work, whichever tool they choose to use. You can also expect us to deliver greater extensibility, not just connections with other cloud applications, but also services that are hosted behind a firewall. Watch this space. We're developing Jira to connect to all the tools your team uses and take workflow tracking and management to the next level. What we have demoed today is just the beginning. So hopefully with this section, we've shown how we're addressing some of the complexity challenges in modern software development by helping to connect the dots between the different applications you use every day. With that, I'll hand things back to Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Now up to this point, we've shown you a ton of the latest and greatest things that we're excited about in the new Jira Cloud experience. And we're confident everything we've demoed today will ultimately help your teams get value to your users faster and more efficiently. But the re-architecting of Jira has also enabled us to make enormous strides in things like performance and scalability, things that we know your teams and organizations will need as you scale. And just like everything else in this presentation, while we have some exciting things to share with you today, we're just as thrilled about what's to come. So in our last section, Jason will share just some of the ways we're setting up Jira Cloud for the next decade in terms of scalability, administration, and performance. Jason, over to you.
One of the first ways we're setting up Jira for scale is by focusing on performance. Because performance is such an important focus for us, we've taken a more scientific approach using a composite metric called Performance Index. Our Jira Cloud Performance Index went up by over 25% last year. Performance Index is an aggregate of the in-browser performance of many frequently used scenarios. A rise in this index means a lot of our common use cases are now much faster for end users. One example of a common use case is loading an issue, and we're happy to say that we've increased the speed at which an issue loads in Jira by 40%. We will continue to improve performance and make Jira Cloud faster than ever before. One way to optimize for performance is to have regional data centers for quicker data access. When we introduced our cloud products, we already had our US data centers. To serve our European customers better, we added one in Ireland last year. And recently we rolled out in Sydney, Australia for our Asia Pacific customers. In the coming year, we will add data centers in Frankfurt and Singapore, further improving response times for our European and Asian customers. This also brings us one step closer to offering data locality for our customers in each region. Also, we know that we hold a big responsibility when you trust us with your data. Protecting your data privacy is very important to us. This past year, we have done significant work in three primary areas in GDPR. First, we updated our privacy policy to focus on clear explanations of how we use and manage your data. Second, many of you have your own obligations under GDPR. This year, we introduced customer-facing terms and documentation so you can better understand our data transfer and security practices. Third, we spent a lot of time making sure we secure, transfer, and use your data in compliance with GDPR. Speaking of compliance, we've successfully achieved 3 different ISO certifications and SOC 2 Type 2 for Jira Cloud. We know that these certifications are a strong endorsement of industry benchmarks that will allow many of you to sleep easily at night. Last, but possibly the most important, security. In this day and age, security is top of mind for us all. As leaders responsible for large organizations, we understand that you want to keep your teams safe. To help you with that, this June we launched Atlassian Access. Atlassian Access is a new subscription product that provides enhanced security and unified user management for your entire company across our cloud products. First and foremost, Atlassian Access provides a single view of all Atlassian accounts in your company with single sign-on and provisioning support. This means you can connect Atlassian with your identity provider and your users sign on once to any Atlassian product they use. More importantly, you can also automatically sync users and groups from your identity providers like Okta and Microsoft Azure AD. The combination of SSO and user provisioning has 3 big benefits for IT administrators. 1, improved security. 2, less time spent onboarding new employees thanks to automatic provisioning. And 3, tighter control over your bill thanks to automatic deprovisioning. To support our enterprise customers better, Atlassian Access also entitles you to priority support across your Atlassian cloud deployment, the ability to mandate two-step verification or strong passwords, and enable or disable accounts from one command center. Our customers love Access and are using it in their organizations to create a safe and secure foundation for all their cloud usage. You can start a 30-day free trial of Atlassian Access today by going to admin.atlassian.com. In this last section, I've shown we're reinventing a cloud-first version of Jira. To do that, we're deeply investing in security, performance, and data privacy in order to enable every team at any company to use Jira Software Cloud. We've hit some impressive milestones and will continue to double down on our focus in these areas. Now, that was a whole lot of content to share in such a short amount of time. I really hope you like the changes, as well as hearing about the backstories on why and how we built the new Jira. With that, I'll hand things off to Jake.
Great, thanks Jason. And thanks to each of you for joining us in today's webinar. It's really been a blast sharing the next generation of Jira software with you, and we can't wait to see everything you and your teams are going to do with it. Now, if there's one thing we'd like to close with before we move to Q&A, it's to encourage each and every one of you to create your very own NextGen project today. Having your own NextGen project is the best way to ensure you're receiving all the updates on everything we're building and shipping in the new project experience. There's a lot on the way, and we're going to be adding new features and functionality each and every week moving forward. As a reminder, anyone within a Jira Software Cloud instance can create their very own NextGen project, so check it out. And following the webinar, if you have any additional questions, concerns, or you just want to learn more about something we've covered today, we'd encourage you to hop over to the Next Generation space in the Atlassian community. You can get there by visiting atlassian.com/get-nextgen. And with that, let's start taking some questions from the audience.